The sun hadn't even fully risen when the shouting started. I ran out of the house and saw two men in suits, fake badges glinting, yelling at Grandpa to move or face arrest. Grandpa barely managed to stand, and before I could reach him, one of them shoved him against the mailbox. I froze as a sickening crack echoed, his arm bent the wrong way. "What the hell are you doing?" I screamed. The men smirked, acting like they owned the street, then ran to their car before I could stop them. Grandpa groaned in pain, clutching his arm, and all I could think was, this wasn't just illegal, it was personal. By the time the ambulance arrived, my phone was buzzing nonstop. I called my cousins, the biker crew no one messed with. They didn't ask questions, they just said, "Name the time and place, we'll handle it." I knew this was about to get messy. But first, I had to keep Grandpa calm while my cousins planned something the fake HOA couldn't even imagine. I stayed by his side, gripping his hand, hearing him mutter, "They'll pay. They have no idea who they're messing with." And deep down, I knew he was right. These fake officers had crossed the wrong family. By nightfall, the roar of motorcycles echoed down the quiet streets. My cousins, leather jackets and chains glinting under the streetlights, pulled into the driveway like an army rolling in. They didn't waste time with words. "Show me the damage," one growled, and I led them to Grandpa. The broken arm, the bruises, even the fear in his eyes, it fueled every muscle in their bodies. They huddled, talking low, plotting something that made my stomach tighten with both fear and excitement. "They think they can scare old man Jenkins," one laughed. "They just lit the fuse." Every plan they whispered had a twist. Every step meant humiliation for those fake officers. I could feel it coming, an unstoppable storm. Then, one cousin smirked and pulled out a small camera. "We're not just going to hit them, we're going to make sure the world sees who they really are." My heart pounded. This wasn't just revenge, it was exposure. And the fake HOA had no clue the hunters were already on their trail. Grandpa squeezed my shoulder weakly and said, "Make them remember this day. Legally, smart, but unforgettable." The next morning, the fake HOA officers showed up again, strutting down the sidewalk like kings of the neighborhood. But this time, things felt different. My cousins were already hidden just a few houses away, engines idling silently, watching every move. Grandpa sat on the porch, arm in a sling, pretending to sip his coffee, while I kept the front door slightly open, phone in hand. One of the fake officers stepped onto our property, waving a clipboard. "You need to vacate this property immediately or we'll—" Before he could finish, a motorcycle roared past, kicking up dust and startling him. Another cousin appeared from the side, casually filming with a steady hand. "Is this the part where you pretend you're law enforcement?" he said, voice low but dangerous. The fake officer froze, eyes darting, realizing someone was recording every word and action. Then came the first twist. The officer lunged, trying to snatch the phone, but my cousin sidestepped, grabbing a chain and letting it fall with a loud clang on the ground. The officer jumped back, heart racing, while the camera captured it all. I could feel the tension snap in the air. These men thought they were untouchable, but every smug grin was about to be shredded on film. Grandpa whispered from the porch, "Keep them talking, let them dig their own grave." By mid-afternoon, the neighborhood had an unusual quiet, like everyone was holding their breath. The fake HOA officers decided to survey the property again, trying to act official, handing out more fake notices. But this time, my cousins were ready with a setup that even I hadn't fully expected. As the officer stepped onto the driveway, one cousin triggered a hidden speaker system. Suddenly, loud sirens and barking dogs erupted from every direction, making the men stumble and shout. "What the?" one screamed, spinning around, but all the cameras captured every second. Another cousin appeared from behind a hedge, walking calmly toward them with a stack of papers. "Ever wonder what real legal ownership looks like?" he asked, tossing a copy of the property deed onto the hood of their car. The twist hit hard. They had no proof, no authority, and now the proof of their harassment was being documented in HD. Panic replaced their smirk. The neighbors peeked out from behind curtains, seeing the chaos unfold, while the fake officers tried to assert control, only to trip over the barking dogs and the chains strategically placed across the driveway. Grandpa leaned on his cane from the porch, smiling faintly. Sometimes the loudest roar isn't a gun, it's truth. By late afternoon, the fake HOA officers were frantic, pacing back and forth like cornered animals. They realized their little act of intimidation had turned into a public spectacle. One of them muttered, "We need backup," but there was no one coming. Every neighbor watching now, phones out, ready to record any slip. That's when the second twist hit. One officer, in a blind panic, tried to tow Grandpa's old truck, thinking it would scare us. As he hooked the chain, another cousin revved a motorcycle behind him, causing a loud bang that made the man jump and stumble right onto the hood of the truck. The chain snapped, the camera captured every flinch, and the crowd of neighbors gasped. "Oh, this is going online," one cousin muttered, laughing. The fake officers realized too late that they were not just dealing with bikers. They were up against a family who had strategy, skill, and legal proof. Grandpa leaned from the porch, calm as ever, and whispered, "Let them fall on their own. Justice is quiet, but it hits hard." By the time the officers scrambled to their car, the evidence was already being streamed, shared, and saved. They weren't just humiliated, they were exposed. As evening fell, the fake HOA officers retreated to their car, desperately trying to regain composure. But my cousins weren't done. They had tracked every step, every word, and every fake notice. One cousin called in a surprise witness, a neighbor who had seen the officers tampering with other properties in the area. The twist came when the neighbor stepped forward, holding his own footage from previous weeks. "These men are not HOA," he said firmly, showing clear evidence of fraud. The officers' faces turned pale. Their arrogance crumbled in front of the cameras, the bikers, and the gathering neighbors. We have the right," one stammered, but the words fell flat. Everyone could see it now. Lies, fake authority, and intimidation exposed in full daylight. Grandpa, still on the porch, nodded slowly. "Truth always finds a way," he said quietly, almost to himself. My cousins exchanged a glance, knowing the final blow was near. The officers tried to argue, to threaten, to intimidate, but every move they made only added to the mountain of evidence building against them. The tension was unbearable, the crowd silent but alert, sensing that the fake HOA's downfall was inevitable. Grandpa, still on the porch, nodded slowly. "Truth always finds a way," he said quietly, almost to himself. My cousins exchanged a glance, knowing the final blow was near. The officers tried to argue, to threaten, to intimidate, but every move they made only added to the mountain of evidence building against them. The tension was unbearable, the crowd silent but alert, sensing that the fake HOA's downfall was inevitable. The next morning, real authorities arrived, called quietly by my cousins the night before. The fake HOA officers tried to talk their way out, waving badges and papers, but the deputies already had everything: video footage, witness statements, and the proof of Grandpa's ownership. One officer tried to lie, but the camera angles and timestamps left no escape. Then came the final twist. As the deputies cuffed them, a neighbor shouted, "You should have never messed with this family!" The bikers revved their engines, standing guard, but it was already over. The fake officers were led away, humiliated, exposed, and facing real charges for impersonation and assault. Grandpa, sitting on the porch, finally allowed himself a sigh of relief. "I didn't fight for this country to be bullied in my own driveway," he said, voice shaking but proud. The crowd of neighbors cheered quietly, some clapping, some recording, the story of the day already viral in the making. My cousins nodded to each other, satisfaction written across every face. Justice had been served, cleverly, legally, and with style. Grandpa's arm would heal, the property was safe, and the lesson was clear. Fake authority never wins against family, truth, and a little fearless firepower. Weeks later, life slowly returned to normal, but the memory of that day lingered like an electric charge. Grandpa's arm healed, the house stood proudly untouched, and the fake HOA officers were facing court. Yet, the biggest twist hadn't even been revealed. My cousins, who everyone thought were just rough bikers, had quietly uploaded the footage online. Every shove, every lie, every moment of their humiliation. Within hours, the video went viral, exposing a network of fake HOA abusers across the state. Grandpa, sitting in his favorite chair, watched the notifications flood in. "Looks like the whole country knows who tried to mess with us," he said, chuckling. I realized then that this wasn't just about revenge. It was about justice, exposure, and protection of what's rightfully ours. Even neighbors who once doubted the family now waved and smiled, thanking us for showing that courage matters. And in the final twist, just as we thought it was over, my phone buzzed with a message. "We're coming for the rest of you." I looked at my cousins, who were already revving their bikes, ready for whatever came next. Grandpa grinned, arm now strong, and whispered, "Let them come. They'll learn the hard way." The story wasn't over. It had just leveled up.